Okay, so when Robert E. Lee suggested the Shenandoah campaign, he was not yet in command of the rebel forces outside of Richmond. He had been brought to Richmond by Jefferson Davis as a military advisor. Okay, but Joseph E. Johnston, who was commanding the Confederate Army in the Eastern Theater, was killed in a skirmish called the Seven Pines Skirmish on May 31st, 1862, in the areas surrounding Richmond. And Robert E. Lee then is named the commander of the rebel forces in the East as a result of that. Okay? And so he's going to hatch the plot to save Richmond. All right? Now, he's going to rely on something we call the defensive offensive. It's a kind of creative strategy that Lee uses to win battles even though he has fewer soldiers. And it sounds counterintuitive, but at the heart of this strategy, the defensive offensive, is a division of your troops. So you're going to leave some troops in one place to defend, usually a small number of them. And the idea here is you're going to hope that your enemy does not guess that you've left a small number in a certain place to defend, while you take the majority of them on an offensive campaign. So you're dividing your forces in order to win. Now, how does this result in a win? Well, you take the group of soldiers that are going on the offense, and you have them attack an isolated part of the enemy's army. And so you create little areas of the battle in which you have the superiority of numbers, and the enemy can't get reinforcements to their side quickly enough. So you create circumstances by dividing your own forces. You create circumstances in which you have a numerical advantage. That's exactly what Lee does here at Richmond in order to save the capital. A lot of it also is not just Lee's daring, but McClellan's incompetence. Really, at any point along the way in this battle, if McClellan had just been a little bit more on top of it, he could have put it into the whole thing, but he didn't. Okay, so, all right, so Robert E. Lee becomes, commander, and he's going to use this thing called the defensive offense, or the whatever. I think I've said it 3 different times now, but I'll put it up there in a minute. Now, when he's formulating the plan, he is relying on the intelligence provided by Jeb Stuart. Jeb Stuart is a young, aristocratic, another kind of one of these sons of landowners, plantation owners, I think, but a rich guy who's young and who is on horseback and who has a kind of, a gallant reputation, right, and wants to earn some fame, okay? And he's part of the cavalry. And especially in Virginia, the Confederate cavalry is extremely skilled. These young men are brought up on horseback. They know what to do, how to move quickly, and to be effective on horseback. And they move in small groups. And what they're doing is they're trying to gain. I don't know what something beeped at me up in the ceiling. I don't know what it was. Anyway, they move in small groups, and they're trying to gain intelligence on what the enemy is doing. Okay. And so what is Jeb Stuart looking for? He's looking for the weak spot in the Union line around Richmond. So this blue right here, I don't know if you can see it. This represents where the troops roughly are around Richmond, where McClellan has put them. Okay, and so what Jeb Stuart is looking for is a weak spot. And in order to find it, he goes all the way around McClellan's whole army. He involves himself in dozens of skirmishes. They capture 170 prisoners. It's one of the most remarkable things that happens in the whole campaign, and it wins Jeb Stuart the fame he's been looking for. But he does identify the weak spot. There's something chirping. Okay, and it's here, north of the Chickahominy River. Okay, so most of the Union Army is south of the Chickahominy River by this point in early June, mid-June. There's one corps, the 5th Corps, which is led by a guy named Fitzjohn Porter, and that's here north of the Chickahominy River. So that's where Lee's going to attack, okay, this isolated group, okay? So then Lee goes on the defensive offense. He divides his forces, right? He leaves about 27,000 men down here to defend Richmond and builds up a whole series of trenches and banks to try to keep the city safe. And they're facing off against something like 75,000 Union troops. So he's got to hope that McClellan won't attack. Well, luckily it's McClellan, so he doesn't. And then he sends the rest of his troops, 60,000 men, north to attack Porter, who only has 30,000. So it's going to be 60,000 versus 30,000 up here. He's also got Stonewall Jackson coming down from the Shenandoah Valley. And so we're going to have, you're going to create a circumstance here north of the Chickahominy where the Confederates have the numerical advantage. Hang on, I'm going to see what this chirping is. Okay, look, I couldn't find out what the chirping is, so it's going to happen. I'm sorry. I'll try to go quick so you don't hear the chirping so much. Okay, so look. The first day of the attack is June 26th. That's what this is supposed to represent, June 26th, here at a place called Mechanicsville. Mechanicsville on June 26th. All right, and Jackson is delayed, and this is like the story of the whole battle, is that Jackson is like physically exhausted from the Shenandoah campaigns. He's been driving himself so hard, so he just like starts taking naps in the middle of the day, and he's completely ineffective in the whole 7 days battle. It's like really confusing, but that's what it is. He was physically exhausted. There's really no other explanation for it. Other than that, he's always a really good like military guy. But stop it. In this circumstance, right? It's like he's just tired. Anyway, he's delayed, and so the first day here, Mechanicsville, is a big defeat for the Confederates. The problem is McClellan doesn't do anything to capitalize on that defeat. In fact, he orders the 5th Corps under Fitz-John Porter to retreat to a defensive position, okay? Really doesn't make any sense, okay? And then he orders the Army of the Potomac to also move back, all of them, to a more defensive position. So he gets a victory, but he doesn't counterattack. He retreats to more defensive position, okay? It doesn't make, why would you do it? Okay. And this actually makes Mechanicsville, even though it's a tactical defeat, meaning the Confederates were actually defeated in the battle, it makes it a strategic victory for the South because they actually pushed the Union back farther. They forced the Union to retreat. So Lee attacks Porter again on the next day, June 27th, here, okay? And it's a three-pronged attack, and it shows us on this day, June 27th, how committed Lee is to victory. 9,000 rebels die in this battle. That's more than twice as many as the Union, okay? In one day. That's about the whole number of rebels, 9,000, almost the number of rebels that died in 2 days at Shiloh, okay? And this is just the second day of the 7 days battle, okay? Then, after this battle here on June 27th, which is so catastrophic in terms of casualties for the rebels, the Confederates, Lee doesn't slow down. He goes on a pursuit of McClellan. And McClellan at this point is retreating back. This dotted line here is the Army of the Potomac, McClellan's army, moving back down towards the James River to retreat. Okay? And Lee is pursuing him. Okay? And it's the same story with Lee's pursuit. There are two battles, Savage Station and Malvern Hill, okay? Both of them have horrific rebel casualties, all right? There are about 3,500 rebels casualties at Savage Station and another 5,500 at Malvern Hill, all right? And Malvern Hill is the worst of it because, look, it's this sort of hilltop thing that McClellan said, oh, that's a good place to go and be defensive, which is what he always does. And he puts the army up there, and so the rebels are charging at the hill, and the Union artillery, the cannons are pounding down on them, and it's horrific. Okay, and then after that, after this horrific rebel defeat of all these loss of life at Malvern Hill, McClellan then orders another final retreat, and now the Army of the Potomac is just basically done. They're done. The whole thing is over. The 7 days battle, nothing. And guess what? This is McClellan. This is what he does. He retreats when he wins. He retreats, whatever. And Lee, at the same time, is showing his colors. He's willing to sacrifice all these lives in pursuit of victory. And what has he done? Well, with all of his gambles and all of his boldness and all the sacrifice of all of these men, he has indeed prevented Richmond from falling to the Union Army. Okay, there it is. But we've got total war in the West, and basically we have the same strategy, total war here in the East. Now, Grant doing it in the West, Lee doing it in the East. This is Grant and Lee now. All right.